What a fellowship, what a joy divine, leaning on the everlasting arms. What a blessedness, what a peace is mine, leaning on the everlasting arms. Leaning, leaning, safe and secure from all alarms. Leaning, leaning, leaning on the everlasting arms. Oh, how sweet to walk in this pilgrim way, leaning on the everlasting arms. Oh, how bright the path grows from day to day, leaning on the everlasting arms. Leaning, leaning, safe and secure from all alarms. Leaning, leaning, leaning on the everlasting arms. What have I to dread? What have I to fear? Leaning on the everlasting arms. I have blessed peace with my Lord so near, leaning on the everlasting arms. Leaning, leaning, safe and secure from all alarms. Leaning, leaning, leaning on the everlasting arms. What have I to dread? What have I to fear? And the answer is nothing. As long as you're leaning on His arms. But if you're leaning on your own merits and physicalness or spiritualness, then yes, you got a lot to worry about. Sometimes in the truck, if it's just me without the kids in the mornings, then Nova rides up in the front seat with me as we go to work, and she will take my hand with her paw and put it on herself, and then she will lay down on my arm, and I'll move my arm. She'll bring it back, put it there, and lean back on my arm. And I'm like, gee whiz, enough. I need to use my other arms. And she keeps on doing that. I'm glad that we can lean on God's arms. And He never says, that's enough. Boy, my arm's tired. It's asleep now. That the song says, leaning on His everlasting arms, everlasting power, strength, and power that He gives us. Judges chapter 7. Judges chapter 7, 9 through 15. You may have to turn up a little bit. I'm going to turn this down because I don't like this buzzing. It was bugging me on Sunday. There. It's still there. Awesome. Judges chapter 7. So we are in the middle of Gideon, and we've kind of broken up his life into different sections. We're on Gideon the fighter right now as we look at his battles with the Midianites. And we just got finished talking about he had a group of people in army, and God says, no, that's too many. Do this. So he does, and some people leave. The majority leave. And another thing, he says, perfect. The amount that's right there is perfect. And when the perfect amount was 300. And we talk about, boy, that doesn't seem like a lot. That's just like nothing compared to the might of the Midianites. And so we're at the end of this. God just now told them, this is exactly what I want. You and the 300 are going to go fight against the Midianites. And so here's our thought for tonight. God knows our weaknesses and will strengthen us even in our weakness. That we are weak. That we need to trust in Him. In and of ourselves, there is no strength at all. There is no power. God knows our weaknesses, and your weakness may not be the same as my weakness. And my weakness may not be the same as your weakness. And God knows exactly what our weakness is, and He will strengthen us even in our weaknesses. Mark chapter 9, verse 24. Mark writes this, "And straightway the father cried out and said with tears, Lord, I believe." But then what does he say? "Help thou mine unbelief." It's like, God, I believe, but I need more strength. I need more faith. Help me to believe even more. I believe that this is kind of where Gideon has been. Boy, I'm wanting to go all in. I have some faith, but help me even have more. Help me to trust you more. Isn't it interesting that we can trust God for our salvation, which is literally the biggest thing in our lives. Eternity we can trust God for. But in the temporary, minute things of life, we have trouble letting our hands off. Like, I don't know if I can trust you with that. What do you mean? You trust Him with your eternity, but not with this? Not with your kids, not with your family, not with your finances or future. You can literally trust Him for that. But what happens is we just have issues sometimes letting go. Just trusting Him with all that there is. How many of you have ever been in a company and you did these, what should I call them? These team building stuff? Anybody do those? I was not a fan. I'm not really a people person, and to look like an idiot in front of strangers was not my thing. Now it's my thing, but back then it was not my thing. How many of you have ever done a trust fall? Okay, anybody want to do a trust fall now? Just kidding. He's like, no, I'm good. What happens is you get a group of people, and like somebody stands here blindfolded. They say fall, and the people, they have to trust the people behind them, 7, 8, 9 of them, and they catch them, right? So I saw these YouTube videos, and they get up here, and they say fall, but instead of falling backwards, they fall forward, where no people are. That will mess up my trust issues. That will make me have trust issues, right? And so the idea is that we can trust God. God has already proven to Gideon time and time again that you can trust me. I've proven myself, and yet Gideon still has that weakness of not trusting God. Now, verses 9 and 10 of Judges chapter 7. This is right after, so verse 7, by the 300 men that will I save you. And then they go home, they eat the food, and get their trumpets, all these things. Verse 9, and it came to pass the same night that the Lord said unto him, Arise, get thee down into the host, for I have delivered it into thine hand. But if thou fear to go down, go thou with Phurah, thy servant, down to the host. That's interesting. That he gives a command to Gideon and then says, if you are afraid to do so, I already have somebody to help you out. Did God already know what he would choose? Absolutely. So the idea is this. The same day that God chose the 300 was the same day He told Gideon to go see in person the host of the Midianites. What He's asking Gideon to do is not take the army, but he himself go down to the host, to go behind enemy lines, to go to where the enemy is, to go down there and listen to see what they say. Now, Does Gideon know how many men or soldiers the Midianites have? Absolutely. They've always said that. A multitude. So no doubt he's like, you want me to do what? I'm confused. You want me to go down there, but before God said go down there to the host, has God already promised him the victory? Absolutely. Whose hand did he promise it to? Gideon. By you will I save the Israelites. So he should have known God can put me right smack in the middle of the host and I won't die. God has a reason for this. He has a plan. I just need to trust him. But if he told you to go right smack in the middle of trouble, you think to yourself, I don't know about this. I'm trusting you, God, but I really need more help in my unbelief. They didn't need to plan. Well, God, I'm not sure. Let's get a better plan than this. No, God had the plan. You know that we'll get to this probably next week, the plan that God had for them to defeat the Midianites, no 5-star general alive would recommend. Hey guys, that's in the war room. I know how to defeat enemies. Get your trumpets. You mean your guns? No, your trumpets. And follow me to the chopper, and we're going to head that way. What about the bombs and the missiles? No, just and a flashlight. Yeah, a flashlight and a trumpet and come with me. What? Are you crazy? No, God had the plan. For our lives, guess what? God has the plan. We go through things sometimes. I think about my niece with the knee injury. She is a senior in high school. She's finishing up her work like this month, next month. She is ready to be done. She has plans for the summer. She has plans to come up here and start working with dogs and things. Boy, she's got plans, and one small thing happens and makes her scratch her head, say, wait a minute. I thought I was in God's plan. What's going on? No, this is all part of God's plan. Just trust that he knows the way through the wilderness. All we have to do is follow him. They didn't need to worry. They didn't need to go, oh no. Anybody a nail biter when you get scared or nervous? One person? I'm not going to tell you. Okay, I will tell you what I do. I'm an odd duck. I wait years to tell you what's the issues with me so that you already know me and don't just say, you are weird, get out of here. So I kind of give those to you a little bit at a time. When I married my wife, I didn't tell her all my issues until later on in our marriage. So she would be like, oh no, I ain't marrying you, you are nuts. When I get nervous or, I don't know, what's the word, excited or any kind of emotion that's that high, I scratch my head uncontrollably. And in fact, it's a little bit of a bald spot right there that I would just, like that. If you've never seen me do that, good. But they definitely have. They're like, what's wrong with you? Tell them, like, stop scratching, you're being loud. You know, we don't have to worry. We don't need to scratch our heads, bite our fingernails, do this, pace back and forth. We can be at peace. Even with 300 people against a huge army, they can go to bed that night thinking, oh man, this is going to be great, and sleep like a baby because they don't need to worry. They should be at peace. The third thing is this. They didn't need to overthink this situation. God promised them the victory. No, God, I got this. The plan is this. Like I said, no, don't overthink it. Just trust me. Just walk by faith, not by sight. Don't overthink the process. Don't try to scrutinize. Just trust me. You have the victory. Again, God saw the battle has already finished God saw the battle as if it was already finished and already won. My grammatical syntax, if it's up there, is horrible. So this is this is fill in the blanks. Again, God saw the battle that was already finished and already won. Before it was started, before it was fought, before it was ended, God saw it as being fought and won before they stepped one foot onto the battlefield. We too can see our battles in that same way. How many of you have troubles and trials and battles of life? Oh, we all do. My goodness. Whether it's physical, relationships, mentally, socially, spiritually, there are battles there. Did you know that when we come to those battles, we can view that battle as already won, even before we are in that battle? Just trust God for the victory. He too will see you through that. God understood Gideon's weakness. And what was his weakness? Fear. I don't know about this. God understood that. He said, you know what? I'm going to tell him to do something that's very hard. He's going to fear, and I'm going to try to strengthen that fear. How does he do that? Just because God understands our weakness doesn't mean he condones it. Well, my weakness is that I get mad. And if God helps us, it doesn't mean that he's like, well, it's okay to get mad. I'll help you. No. He said, let me help you work through the problems that you have. The idea is this. God will give us the help that we need to overcome our weakness. God will give us the help that we need to overcome our weakness. One of the things that is hard, let's say, I know you can't tell from my physique, but let's say that I work out. I know it looks like I do, but I don't. Let's say that I work out, and I love working out with, say, arms. Like, that's my favorite thing. And my arms are just huge, so I'll work out there. And what I hate working out is my legs. Do you know if I always did what I liked and never did what I hated, you know what I would look like? Weird, goofy, skinny legs with a big body. And like, no, you have to do even the things that are your weakness, right? We have to work on those things. And in fact, we should probably work on those weaknesses even more. So God says, I will help you overcome the weaknesses. God did not just tell Gideon, hey man, get over it. That's not what he did. You know what we have the tendency to do sometimes in our lives? Just get over it and move on. God said, no, here's the issue. Here's your fault. I'm going to help you get through that. What did Moses say when God said, I want you to go to Pharaoh and let my people go? Moses said, let's go. Let's do this. He said, no. He said that, how will they believe me? Do you know what God did? I'm going to show you what to say. And then the last thing that Moses says is, I can't speak plain. I'm not eloquent. Do you know what God did? You know what he did. Okay, I'll fix that problem too. Here's Aaron. Now what? So he didn't say, stop making excuses. He said, here's the excuse. I'm going to fix that. Boom. Now obey. Now go. You have no more excuses, no more hiccups. Just trust me. God told Gideon that if he feared, God already knew fear was in his heart. I think you could say that God said, when you fear, to go with Phua, his servant, to the host of the Midianites. Interesting. It's the first time that this person has been mentioned. Phua must have been a close confidant of Gideon. Why else he would not have sent a stranger, say, hey, you fear, go with this complete stranger, and he will help you go. No. I think it was somebody very close to him that he confided in, and that maybe even needed some spiritual help to go with him. Now, I wonder what Phua was thinking. Really, Gideon? You want me to go with you? Come on, man. I could have been at home, just A-okay. Because of your fear, You got me involved in going down to the enemy's camp. Have you ever had kids? And I tell one of my kids, go outside and let the dogs out. It's dark, Dad. Go outside, let the dogs out. Hey, Corey, can you come with me? Caleb, go let the dogs out. It's dark, Dad. You know that just if I stand at the door, he could be in the middle of the yard, not even see me, but know that I'm at the door. You know what kind of confidence he has at that point? Oh, I'll be okay. Dad's not here with me, but I know he's close enough. Boy, having Fua with him, having that confidant, somebody that he trusts really helped. It is important who we have as confidants in our lives. If we have the wrong confidants in our lives, they will not help us, but they will hurt us. What if Fua was a bad one? I'll go with you. And on the way there, he's like, boy, this is stupid. Aren't you scared? I'm scared. Let's go back. No. He trusted God. He said, we can do this. Let's go to get together. Now, verses 11 and 12. And thou shalt hear what they say, and afterward shall thy hands be strengthened to go down unto the host. Then went he down with Fua his servant to the outside of the armed men that were in the host, and the Midianites and the Amalekites and all the children of the east lay along in the valley like grasshoppers for multitude, and their camels were without number, as the sand by the seaside for multitude. Boy, oh boy, what a huge number that was. God wanted Gideon to hear firsthand what the Midianites were saying in the camp. You want me to go down there and just listen? They're probably just jibber-jabbering. It's probably just a bunch of nonsense that they're speaking. What do you mean go down there and listen, and when I get done, I'm going to be strengthened? How will that help? Have you ever had God ask you or tell you to do something? You think to yourself, how does that help? How does that, I don't understand, by my doing that, how is that going to give me strength? But Gideon said, at this point, okay, I'm going to go into the enemy's camp and listen to what they had. God told Gideon that when he heard the conversations, that he would be strengthened. And so he goes down, Gideon and Fua, go incognito to the outside of the camp of the Midianites to listen to the conversations. Boy, going down there not to steal something, not to gather intel, but just to listen. And as they're going down, Gideon noticed the massive size of their army. What an interesting way that the Bible puts it. Like grasshoppers. The camels were so many like sands of the other sea. Can you imagine as they got closer, his heart starts thumping faster. Like, whoa. This is a lot. It makes us wonder. It makes me wonder. If in his mind, as he's walking, he sees the camels and they just don't end. They're just camels after camels after camels, soldiers after soldiers, and he says, wow, I can't even count that many, and all I have is 300. Oh boy, oh boy. I wonder if he's doing the calculations in his head. What's God up to? That should be our thought. When we think we are outnumbered, boy, what's God going to do? It's going to be fun to see God win this battle. Boy, it's going to be a blast. When David said, give me 5 stones, he grabbed 5 stones. He's like, it's going to be a blast to see what God's going to do with this. Sword and spear and shield, that's one thing. But to see God take out a giant with a stone, oh boy. Can you imagine if we just let God have whatever we have, what he can do with that? To watch God do miracles and wonders with whatever that we have. Reminds me of the song that we sing sometimes in church. My God is so big, so strong and so mighty. There's nothing my God cannot do. I don't care how many camels you have, how many swords, how many spears, how many soldiers. My God is bigger than all of you. And I'm on his side. Verse number 13 and 14. And when Gideon was come, he's now in the host, there was a man that told a dream unto his fellow. So he's kind of what we would call eavesdropping at this point. And said, there's two men of the Midianite camp. One guy says, behold, I dreamed a dream. And lo, a cake of barley bread tumbled into the host of Midian. And came unto a tent and smote it that it fell and overturned it, that the tent lay along. And his fellow answered and said, this is nothing else save the sword of Gideon, the son of Joash, a man of Israel, for into his hand hath God delivered Midian and all the host. I wonder how big the goosebumps were on Gideon's arms when he heard that. First of all, maybe he's just kind of leaning up and he's kind of listening. Dreamed a dream, okay, cool. No, not sure what that means. And then the guy says, Gideon. How's he know me? How's he even know who I am? I'm a nobody. He knows I'm a son of Joash. And what did he say? That I'm going to defeat this army? Can you imagine what's going on inside of Gideon's heart and mind? Gideon overhears a conversation two men have about one of the man's dream. And what a dream that was. I'll try to interpret the dream. The cake of barley bread. Commentaries suggest that it is a barley bread baking with hot coals and rolling down a hill. That's the idea. That as it's baking with the hot coals, it's rolling down the hill into their camp. That's the idea, the mental picture that is there. And this is it came to a tent. The Hebrew syntax makes it sound as a certain particular tent, not just a random tent that it happened to hit. Josephus, he's kind of dead. He wrote a lot of history books. They are not inspired. They are not part of the canon of scriptures, but it is history from that time. And he suggests that it is the king's tent that barley bread hits. Okay, so that's the idea. And then overturned it. He said that it literally turned it topsy-turvy, so that it turned it upwards, boom, upside down. Can you imagine a tent? Typically speaking, if you turn a tent upside down, what's going to happen? Collapse. But it hits it and it turns it like so, upside down. Interesting enough, the dreamer's fellow, his friend, a comrade, or acquaintance, gave him the answer to his dream. This guy said, I've had this odd dream. Maybe we drank too much the night before, or had too much pizza and kebabs or something. But boy, my dream was crazy. Here's what it is. And the guy says, oh, let me tell you what that means. Interesting. Interesting that he tells him what it means. And let me ask you this. It may be in the notes, but let me ask you this. Who do you think gave the man the dream? God. Who do you think gave the interpretation to the other man? God. What if Gideon did not show up? God said, I'm going to give you strength by certain words. Sometimes he has strength for us waiting, like a cool, refreshing water, waiting for us just to obey and go where he sends us to be strengthened. Many times we are where we want to be, and we say, I'm not moving, God, till you give me strength. So no, if you go over there, you will have the strength that you need. Gideon's name is now known in the camp of the Midianites. They know me. They're going to kill me. I wonder if this was as a shock to Gideon to hear such words. How do they know me? I'm shocked. God gave the Midianite a dream to instill faith and confidence in Gideon. That God said, here is a dream, not in your head. Could God have given Gideon that dream? Yes or no? Sure he could have. Could he have Phua interpret that dream for him? Sure he did. But he wanted him to obey, to help with that fear and that unbelief, go someplace that he was uncomfortable with, trust God so that he can have the strength after that. And certainly, after he heard that, he was strengthened. Verse 15. And it was so when Gideon heard the telling of the dream and the interpretation thereof, that he worshipped, and returning to the house of Israel and said, Arise, for the Lord hath delivered into your hand the host of Midian. Gideon's over here listening to this conversation. He did not say, well, what a coinky dink. My name's Gideon too. That's odd. What a coincidence. He had a dream. The same night that God told me to be here, he happened to have a dream. That's coincidence. You know what the world says about that? Exactly that. Oh, what a lucky draw you had. Well, that's coincidence. No, that was we call it providence of God. God put you exactly where he wants you to give you a message to strengthen your heart. Why do you think God did it that way? Don't go to the next slide yet. Why do you think God did it that way? I'm not sure what blank is there on your notes. Can I see your notes for a second? Never mind, I gave you the answer. Why? Because Gideon is a sign guy. I want a sign. God, give me a sign, I'll believe. Throw out a fleece. I don't want another fleece. Are you really God? I need a sign. I need a sign. I need a sign. Before he asked for a sign this time, what did God do? Gave him a sign. He said, I know exactly how to help you. Here's your sign. Here's your sign. Here is the sign that you need. Before he even asked, Gideon received what he probably would have asked for. He's a sign guy. Gideon knew that God would give them the victory. After all of that, from day one, when the angel of the Lord came to him and said, hey, Gideon, you're the man to go against the Midianites. Now he finally says, guess what, guys? God's going to give us the victory. You're just now figuring this out. What a path of faith. What a journey to go from fear to faith. You know that sometimes our journeys are not always the same. That in some Christians' life, point A to point B could be a day, but in some people's life, point A to point B could be months, weeks, years. That God is still working his timeline where he wants you to be. Immediately when he heard that, it says that he heard the telling, the interpretation, and then he worshiped God. When our faith turns to fear, take time to worship God. God, thank you for not giving up. Thank you for your victory. Thank you that you took my doubts and my unbelief and you strengthened that. You took my weakness and you strengthened it. God, thank you that even in my weakness, you are made strong. When our fear turns to faith, take time to worship God. And then he goes back to the host of the Israel. And his faith, Gideon's faith, instilled faith in others. Can you imagine Gideon coming back and saying, hey guys, by the way, we're going to win. That wasn't a big pep talk. He didn't say, okay guys, I'm going to give you the speech of all speeches. I know a couple of you watch sports. I enjoy listening to coaches' either halftime speech or pre-game speech to hype up their players. And he could just filling their minds with a bunch of baloney. But the way he says it, how he says it, they're like, we can do this, guys. We got this. And then they play the game and are losing at halftime. Now the coach says, no, guys, we can still do this. And they believe him. And then they lose. The next game, he gives another speech, says, we can do this, guys. And they still believe him. They can lose every game of the year. And the last game comes and says, guys, we lost every game this year, but we can win this one. All right, coach, let's go get them. It's amazing what one person's faith can do for the crowd. And Gideon said, guys, we can win. His faith instilled faith in others. Your faith in God, believe it or not, can help other people believe and have faith more. Can instill faith in others. Gideon also gave the credit to God and not himself. He did not say, hey guys, I was listening to them. They know my name. They know that I'm the son of Joash. And I heard them say that we are going to kill them. That I am the man and they fear me. Now let's go get them. That's not what he said. Were all those things true? No doubt, yes. But who did he give the credit to? He says in verse 15, for the Lord hath delivered into your hand the host of Midian. He did not say, and I have delivered into your hand the host of the Midianites. No. He gave the credit to God and not himself. So we're going to end with this phrase, with this thought. God knows our weaknesses and will strengthen us even in our weakness. Have we seen in Gideon's life so far a great journey of weakness to strength? Oh man, what a journey it has been. And now we see Gideon, somebody who's just ready to take on the world. All because he trusts God. His faith has grown. Why does God put us in trials? To help our faith grow even more. There's a song that I grew up singing. I was trying to think of the chorus, but the verse says, if I never had a trial, if I never had a problem, I would not know that God could solve them. Boy, what a thought. That if I don't have issues, when that issue comes, how do I know that God will take care of it? I can look back and say, hey, God took care of this problem, this problem, this problem. This problem ain't too big for God. God will take care of this problem as well. God knows our strengths and will strengthen us even in our weakness. Let's pray to God. Thank you for all you've given us. Thank you for this time we can come and worship you. Thank you that in our weakness you are made strong and you can strengthen our weaknesses so that we can magnify you and help others have faith in you. Help us as we go through this journey of faith. Help us to trust that your plan is right. We don't have to worry. We don't have to fret. That we can live in peace. Even when troubles and trials come, we can trust you. We love you. Just stand and pray. Amen. Sunday.